Hello, and welcome to the Health Habits and Epic Living podcast. If this is your first time joining me, thank you and welcome. And if you are a longtime listener or you've been with me in the past, welcome back as well. I'm excited to have you here. So, I want to start off by saying that I was trying to record this podcast for a little bit now, which started from yesterday and into today because I couldn't get my microphone to work. So, when you consider yourself like this smart person and you go to plug in the microphone and you think, well, what's wrong? How come it's not working? And so I was spinning my wheels and I really didn't want to reach out and ask my husband, who's an IT guy, for help. Like, I really want to figure this out. So I was telling him this morning on our walk, I think I'm having problems with my microphone. And he starts laughing because of course, to use a microphone is so easy. You just plug it in. And so right before I started recording, I was just going to use, the old computer kind of microphone. But you know what? It wasn't the microphone. You know what was the problem? The speakers. I had the wrong speaker selected. So I saw my mouth moving, but no sound was coming out because it was a speaker problem. So I just throw that out there because I think it's funny when, they consider ourselves like so good at something or been doing something for so long. And then we run into a snafu and then we can get all these like negative stories or not wanting to reach out for help. And hey, that happens to me. And I just want to laugh about it because as I'm learning from a coach that I'm seeing about internal family systems and just the different parts of us that we bring to our adult life, the parts that we learn from childhood. And, in childhood, I was the child that figured it all out, right? So it's kind of like I need to keep figuring it all out and just noticing that part that comes through on me that, if I can't figure this microphone out, that I must not be smart. So just something that I became aware of, wanted to share because we're all about breaking our limiting beliefs here and changing the way we think about ourselves so that we can go on to live the epic life that we are meant to live. And also looking at the habits and the health that can get us to that epic living, right? Because I'm a believer that you become what you do, right? So your habits will predict to a certain extent the level of your health, and that will, to a certain extent, decide, right, if you are living an epic life. So, one of the things I want to dive into today is really one of the habit changes that you can make that can be really life altering. Like it could really be everything. So, before I go there and talk about this habit that I think really, if we just embraced one habit, if this was the one we embraced, that it really can transform our life. Now, I believe habits, the ones you choose to embrace that serve you, that fill you up, that bring you joy, right? And bring you health and bring you happiness, right? Those are habits like though any habit that you can embrace in those categories transforms your life. So I believe habits transform your life for sure. And if you choose the wrong things that aren't filling you up, of course, you're not going to feel like transformed. You're going to feel held back. You're not going to feel deficient or something's wrong with you or why can't I figure this out, right? Your habits hold you back or they propel you forward. And so if they're propelling you forward, right, that's like transforming you. Transforming is like not staying the same. We talked about a few episodes ago about the dangers of staying the same. And sometimes we need to outgrow certain things. Like it may have worked in our 20s or it may have worked in our 30s, but that's not going to work now. So I do feel that when you look at your habits, they do predict your future. And so when we're looking about this one habit I want to share with you that really can transform your life, can really bring you into your epic self and living your epic life. Before we get there, I want to take a little tangent because it's going to tie in at the end, is talk about a definition that I had heard on a podcast that really blew my mind. And it was the way they were defining integrity. And I want to bring this because I know humans like to live in integrity. We do. Because when we're not, I'll tell you what happens. We talk about it. We talk about it a lot where we're out of integrity with ourselves, when we're not measuring up in the ways we want to be measuring up. It could be, I don't have a great relationship with my spouse right now. We're fighting, right? That could feel out of integrity because you want this amazing quality, fun, loving relationship with the person you decided to marry or commit to, right? And so when we're not on that trajectory, we tend to talk about these things. Same can be true with our children, right? Sometimes we hit it right on the nail and we're going and we're gliding along with our kids, and then oops, we hit a rock or they hit a rock and it throws us off kilter, and we're like, I'm just in the sticking point. I know I'm being a nag, or I know my kid can be achieving more and I'm not sure how to motivate them or how to parent this, or what used to work when they were 7 stops working when they're 9, like all of that. So we talk about where our lives feel sticky or messy or out of integrity. So if you look up integrity in the dictionary or on Wikipedia, you're going to find a different definition. And I don't mind those definitions, but some of them feel moralistic, like you should be or you ought to be. And I don't want to come at it that way, because then I think that brings in more feelings of shame and guilt and all of that, which doesn't really propel us forward. And that's my philosophy. That's my philosophy once I started helping women around breaking up with alcohol and drinking less. Like, if you just want to drink less and not abstain, I think there's nothing wrong with that. Harm reduction is amazing, right? If you're doing less harm to your body, less harm to your health, less harm in your life, then you are living more epic than you were the previous year, or the times where you were imbibing more, right? And maybe living a little bit more dangerously or risky or fall prone or whatever. You're inviting more harm into your life by inviting in more alcohol. So, it's not about shaming. It's about, hey, I'm living out of integrity. And that's when a lot of women will start coming to me, and men as well. I'm working with a gentleman right now who realizes that he doesn't mind his drinking so much, but his wife does. And it's really starting to drive a nail in their relationship. And he's like, how can I be with alcohol and make her happy? So I love that he's painted where we're going, right? Like, this would be his epic living, would be, I want to keep some alcohol in my life, but I also want to keep her in my life and have her not nag me about it, right? And have her accept this part of me. And so I'm working with him. And then, of course, I need to bring in her, because I need to understand where she's coming from and what is her ideology around alcohol, and, what is concerning to her. And she has big concerns, really big concerns. She lost her father to alcoholism. So I can see how that can be triggering. I can see how that could be a sensitive topic. So anyway, living out of integrity, meaning you want more for your life. So I don't really love the definitions out there. The definition I want to use for today's podcast and really dive into this in this perspective, I think can give us so much more of a breakthrough, so much more leverage on saying, oh, I didn't see integrity from that perspective. So here's the definition that I had heard that I really gel with. And it is, if you are living with integrity, it means you do basically 2 things. You do the things you say you're going to do, and you don't do the things you say you're not going to do. And I really love that so much, because I think we think about integrity as the first part. I put it on my calendar. I'm going to get it done. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. This year on vacation, we're going here, right? We follow through on the things we say we're going to do. But a lot of us may not even be thinking about what we don't want to be doing, and having a I don't do those things kind of list. And I think that's an interesting perspective, because it gets us out of this I do, and to be in integrity, I have to do more, or I have to accomplish more, or I have to achieve more. And we're talking about this inside of the Epic You community, because like bringing in this aspect of the definition, it's like, oh, there are things that I don't do that also make me feel amazing about who I am and how I show up. Because integrity, I don't want it to be a moral thing. I want it to be a liberating thing. I show up as the type of person I want to show up, right? I show up as the man I want to show up as. I show up as the woman I want to show up as. And when I show up this way, I feel good about me, and I feel good about you and the relationships out there. right? And I think this is the beauty of living in integrity. It's saying, I do these things, and I also draw a line in the sand and I say, and I don't do those things, right? So just bringing it back to some of the things that I've experienced, starting out on this drink less journey, I just wanted to drink less. My goodness, 35 drinks a week seemed ridiculous when I actually counted them up and was willing to face that reality. And I'm so glad I was willing to face that reality. I was so glad that it hurt. It was painful, but I just really wanted to face reality. And I wanted to do something about it. I didn't want to just say, well, that's who I am. Well, that's what's going on. Well, my life is too busy. Well, I've got, a kid to raise. Well, my life is so stressful. I was selling my business at that time. There was a lawsuit pending. There was just a lot of craziness that I really didn't want in my life. And there's craziness in our lives that show up that we don't want and didn't ask for. But if I was to put it on the back burner, and if I wasn't to address it, and if I wasn't to assess that part of my reality, I would have been still staying the same. And I don't know if I would be here right now had I not chosen to go after that phase and that area of my life, or that, piece of my life that I didn't feel I was showing up with integrity. I wanted to say, I'm going to drink less. I wanted to have alcohol-free days, and I couldn't. I didn't. I just didn't. I didn't know how. I didn't know why the things I was trying weren't sticking, weren't working. And I really had to keep going, right? Keep diving deeper, keep diving deeper, keep diving deeper, and keep understanding myself, because it's not about the alcohol. I know we want to say it's delicious and my friends do it and it's my tribe and, okay, that put that all on the table. But when it comes down to it, you can't change your friends. You can't change the alcohol. You can't change the availability of the alcohol. You can get it out of your house, but it's still going to be widely available. It's still going to be at the CVS. It's still going to be at the Walmart. It's still going to be, everywhere that you can buy alcohol. We can get it all the places that I just mentioned in California. I know all states are not like that, which just makes it even more ubiquitous for Californians because it is literally everywhere. And you won't be able to change that part of society. And if you try and wait for the laws to change, well, that might not happen in your lifetime. And so that is not really where you want to be spending your energy. Where you really want to be spending your energy is on you, because you really are the only thing and only piece of that equation that you can change. I mean, I can't stop my friends from offering it to me, waiters asking me every time I sit down to dinner if I'd like a cocktail or something from the wine list. Do you notice that the tables, particularly fine dining, when we go out, the wine glasses are already on the table? It's already signaling to you like, hey, we anticipate and expect you to order a drink of alcohol of some sort because there's a wine glass on your table. And then they kindly take it away when I don't order. And so, society is like programming us. This is the way we should go. And if you want to do that, great. If it's leading to your epic life, great, right? But if it's not, you'll know. How do you know? Because you won't feel like you're walking in your integrity. And it's just this inner knowledge that you have that you're like, hey, I say I'm going to do the things and I do them when it comes to like work. But when I say I'm not going to do something, do I also follow through on that? And that's the piece that I want us to look at, because I think that piece can really help us move the needle on becoming happier, more grounded, more fulfilled, and dare I say, healthier. Because when you start ridding those little things that eat at maybe it's eating at your self-worth. You just don't feel like, you're on fire for life because you got this like little nagging thing hanging around that you're like, I don't feel good about that. And no matter how much I imbibe, it doesn't feel good. And when I imbibe less, that feels better. Well, that's telling you something, right? If you imbibe not at all and you go for like weeks at a time and feel amazing, I mean, just think about how your body's signaling to you, like, this feels good. This is where I'm finding my jam in life. And what I find when women and men overdrink, oftentimes they are not in a good mental place. They are not in a good emotional place. And I reach out to people in those places because I know it's hard. It's hard to break through when you're there. But when you can start taking a small step forward, it can really change. And I think when we're in that thick, hard place where we feel disgusted with ourselves, I think we think that we need a dramatic change. We need to like avoid alcohol for like a whole month. And I just want to offer to you that even getting a good day down, just one good day, one 24-hour day can make all the difference. So when we're talking about this definition of integrity, do I do the things I say I'm going to do? And I'll tell you, I notice a lot of women, particularly, they are so good at following through if there's somebody they are accountable to on the other side. This is also something we were talking about inside the Epic You community is like, oh, I'm so good at following through when I'm meeting up with a friend for lunch or I'm meeting up with somebody for dinner or I'm following through on a project with my boss. I totally say and get it done in the timeline I say I'm going to get it done. If I say I'm showing up at 6 o'clock for dinner, I'm there right at 5:55 or 6 o'clock, right? I'm there, particularly when you are held accountable by somebody else on the other side. What gets a little more challenging for some people is to show up when it's just for themselves, to show up at the gym when they're not meeting anybody else, right? Sell my calendar to go exercise. Some people handle that great, and some people, that's where they might need a little more accountability, a little more support, and a little more, dare I say, self-understanding of why you are not committing to yourself and it's easier to commit to others. Because I think that highlights a lot. That may come back to your needs not being met in childhood. That may be you feel selfish now doing that, or there's some level of self-blocking thinking going on there. And just breaking through that, right? Just helping yourself see it differently. It's like, that's the freedom I wanted. That's the missing piece that I really wanted to understand about myself so that I'm not consistently following this negative cycle that I don't want to be following. And then on the other side of that definition, it's not that you just follow through on the things you say you're going to do. You also follow through on the things you say, no, I'm not doing that. Something that made that list. So before I go there, to give you an example, I want to give you an exercise that if you want to put this into practice and start working on this on your own. Of course, if you'd want my help, feel free to come join one of my programs or work with me as a coach. Love to help you on this because it's so exciting when you do get that habit change. Because when you can change one habit, I'll tell you that one habit can transform your life. And so get out a piece of paper, draw a line down the middle, and look at it now as you are in this phase of life. You're not your 20-year-old self. You're not your 30-year-old self. If you are not in that age group, you are the self you are today. Today. So let's not consider the past and let's not consider anything holding you back, like any negative beliefs or anything saying like, nope. You just get to paint the picture today of this is what I'm committed to on the left. So you draw a line down the middle on that sheet, and on the left, you say, I do these things. I'm committed to these things. And on the right-hand side of that page, I'd say, even really more importantly, you say, I'm committed to not doing these things. So one of the things that used to be on the left side of the page for Sherry, but now has jumped on the right side of the page for Sherry, is I used to yell at my daughter. I used to think I had to yell. I'd say, and I'd use a calm voice for the first 3, 4, 5, 6 times asking her to do something, put away her shoes, put on her shoes, whatever it was, get dressed, get in the car, anything. I used to ask kindly, kindly, kindly. And then what happened when she wouldn't listen? My anger voice came out. I used to yell. And she used to listen. It's almost like I taught her that I'm not serious until I'm yelling. And so she began to learn that she doesn't have to listen to mom until she hears the angry voice. And then that's when mom's serious. And that's when she will actually comply and get in the car or put on her shoes or whatever it was. And I'm like, wow, she always waits till I get angry. That's so interesting. I must be training her to think that's when I'm really serious. So I decided years back that I didn't want that between us. That was not building our relationship. That was not making me feel good about being a mom. That was not making me feel good about the parenting I was doing. So I said, okay, And I didn't like being yelled at as a kid. Like I went back to my childhood and go, gosh, I got yelled at and I didn't like that. That didn't feel good. And that like some of those stories still stick with me today as, a 50-plus-year-old woman. So I'm like, I don't want to do that to her. I don't want to live with that guilt. I don't want to live with that on my conscience. And I don't even want to show up like that because I don't enjoy being angry. I'd much rather be happy and pleasant. So seeing that, I said, okay, we're now moving non-yelling over, and that's something I'm not going to do. I am not going to yell at her. And let me tell you, sometimes it's really hard not to go there. But that is on now the right side of that page. I don't yell. She really got me angry a couple weeks ago. I was also talking about this inside the Epic U community. And wow, it really took a lot for me not to yell. And it made me find creative ways to describe how I was feeling without using the voice to signal that. So I want to give you that gift because your kids could tell when you mean business, and it doesn't require raising your voice. It could be that I paused differently, and I noticed that when I paused differently and I looked her right in the eye and connected with her, she saw in my eyes, I meant business. Do you see how I paused there? And I even said that to her. I mean business. Like, this is no longer funny and it needs to stop. And I didn't need to raise my voice. And so I want you to hear this because we might think, oh, that's never going to happen. That's never going to work. And you know what? I'll tell you, you might slip up. Of course, just like when you cut back on drinking, you have slip ups. If you don't expect that to happen, then you are dealing with some pristine, perfect world utopia that does not exist. You will slip up. None of us are perfect. But I will tell you, the more you practice it, just like anything, it's a skill. The more you practice it, the better your brain gets at learning how to use it to the next level. And that's what I think is epic, right? Epic living. I don't yell at my daughter, but I use my words so well to communicate that I'm not going to yell, but you better darn listen. So I love that that's now on that side. Also on that side of the page, what I'm not doing is I'm not drinking this year, right? That's a no-go for 2025. Now, if I don't follow it perfectly, I actually put a caveat to that for 2025. And this is a caveat I think I want to carry out for the rest of my life. Because, and I'll tell you what the caveat is, and then I'll tell you the reason. So I don't want to drink in 2025. I gave up alcohol. Now, I may not follow that perfectly. However, if I choose to drink, my caveat is I never have more than one. And I'll tell you what, women should not be having more than one glass if we want the should statement. According to the guidelines, the World Health Organization, the CDC, the drinking, like there's just no benefit to our health. There's not any benefit with the first drink. Let us be clear on that, to our health. But there's clearly no benefit by adding more. And there's only more harm. So if I do say, okay, I have a drink and I choose to have a drink, I'm never going more than one for 2025. So a couple of weeks ago, I celebrated a birthday and I decided to have a drink. I decided to order one. And I also said, this is my only one and I'm going to stop. And I don't know why, but I was like, I don't know why I feel like it, but I'm just going to do it because I feel like it. And I want to elevate the experience. I talk about that in a previous episode, if you drink for effect or you drink for experience. And I wanted to elevate this experience. We were at this fine dining and I wanted to add to the experience. So I chose to order a drink and I stopped at one. Didn't even finish the whole thing. It's funny because my brain still wants to like it, but there's a part of me that really doesn't like it. So it's like that internal struggle. And even with just the one, and I'm like, I would have been fine without it. Totally fine. But I did stick to, I'm not having more than one because that is definitely on the do not do list for 2025 and probably for the rest of my life. If I do decide to imbibe, one is plenty for a female at my height and weight to metabolize. And I feel good about that. I don't feel I'm doing this to punish myself. It's not deprivation. It just makes me feel like I'm walking in my integrity. This is the way Sherry wants to show up to live epically and to feel good about myself. So, living with integrity, showing up for yourself the way you want to, following through on saying, I'm going to do this because it adds to my life, adds to my health, helps me with this habit. And I'm going to stop doing these things because they don't add to my life. In fact, they subtract. They subtract from my integrity. They subtract from how I feel about myself the next day, how I show up for myself. If I was still imbibing those 35 drinks, I wouldn't be showing up for my child the same way. I wouldn't be showing up for me the same way. I wouldn't have all the mental freedom, right? It's the mental freedom. Like I'm just not feeling drawn to the alcohol. It's like another desire that my body doesn't have to deal with. And I think that's beautiful. And I also say that because if you're in the throes of not being there and having all that desire, that you can create it differently moving forward. So when you're looking at integrity, make your list and write it down because we know the power of writing things down takes it from abstract, running around in the mind, oh, that sounds great, I should do that one day, and never getting it done, to when I write it down, it's like, oh, I see it differently. I can contemplate what else I want on that list. I have a person I'm working with inside of Midlife Metabolic Makeover, and her body responds so freaking well to intermittent fasting that she just dropped the weight so well. We had dialed in her hormones, we had dialed in her labs, we looked at everything that was going on. Like, oh my gosh, intermittent fasting is like the magic bullet for her. And she even said that. She's like, when I do this, Sherry, it's amazing. It's amazing. Like, I feel so good when I follow through. And so she has on her do not do list is when she sets those eating windows, for her, she doesn't eat outside of it. That's a no-go because she feels so amazing abiding by it that it's not even that hard. Because she's like, this makes me feel so good about me and living in my integrity and saying I'm going to commit to it and following through and not eat outside of that window. And I want to tell you, like, she's lost a lot of weight doing that. And it's been amazing to see her transformation. So if you're looking to change one thing, one habit that is going to change the trajectory and transform your life, consider on increasing your integrity with yourself. You're doing it for you. You're doing it to level up your life, to level up how you feel, to level up how you show up. And this is how you want to show up, right? Instead of complaining about it, talking about it, not doing it, flip it to the reverse, right? This is how I'm going to show up for myself. So here's the truth. Now, you can choose any habit and it can radically change your life. So that is the absolute truth. I have a friend who, on her list of things she does every day, she gets 10,000 steps. She will not go to bed until she walks 10,000 steps. And she told me of an example at like 11:45 at night. She looked down and she's like, oh my gosh, I still have 500 more steps to go. She went out inside of her neighborhood, just walked up and down really quick, came back inside to go to bed. So meticulous about it, yes, but she's committed. She's committed. And she's like, I've been doing 10,000 steps for over 2-3 years now, I want to say. And it's made her feel so good and proud about herself and happy and just a life transformed. I mean, she's gotten so many other benefits that it's led to, like weight loss and getting her migraines under control. I mean, so many health things. So realistically, my friend, one habit can change and transform your life. And I just want to mention that maybe that habit that can transform your life is improving your integrity with yourself, doing the things that you say you're going to do, and not doing the things that you say you're not going to do. Try it and watch it radically transform your life, where you get to show up as the more epic version of you and live more epically. And being your epic self is amazing. So just think about integrity as self-love in action. Self-love in action. I love that definition of integrity. It's self-love in action. Also, you can think of as integrity as coming home to your truth, walking your truth, doing the things you say you're going to do and not doing the things you say, I don't want to do. And that's what I'm all about, my friend. One habit at a time, improving your health and living and feeling more glorious and epic inside. All right, my friend, great being with you today, and I will see you next week. Thanks for listening to the Health Habits and Epic Living podcast. If you're ready to take the next step to improve your health, wellness, and lifestyle goals, head over to www.epicyou.com and sign up for my weekly newsletter. Again, that's EPICYOU.com. Please note that the information in this podcast is for educational purposes only and does not constitute medical advice.